Welcome to today's video. Today is day two of me trying to build something for the future. Um, I really learned a lot for today. I learned about CSS today and I was able to put what I've learned into practice. Now let me give a breakdown of what I've learned so far in CSS. I learned the basic syntax of CSS, which are universal selector, type selector, class selector, ID selector, grouping selector, the chaining selector, and the decidant combinator. And then I learned the properties of CSS, which are the height and the width. And then I learned the color, I learned the font type, and I learned the background. And let me tell you my experience about it while I try to practice with. Well, let me feed you on the experience I had while I was playing around with what I've learned so far. Number one way to which you can add your CSS file to your HTML is through the external CSS. The second way is through the internal CSS. The third way is through the inline CSS. Now, I learned so much about these processes, and I learned that through the inline CSS. For me, through the inline CSS was a very unique way. Like, if I didn't want to change anything, if I didn't want to start scrolling up or down, I just quickly add a CSS file there, and it makes my work so easy for me. And then the external CSS, like I could just finish with my HTML file and then move on to my CSS file. All I have to do is just to open a side window and see what I'm doing there. If it does not work, then I would have to go and check the class selector. I would have to go and check what I gave the name I used for the class. And then I would have to use the same name, or if I had made a mistake in the spelling. So for me, that experience was so unique and so passionate for me, because I had to be careful so I don't write things wrong. And because I was using a one screen monitor, because once my monitor was not in the HTML, so I am focused on one side monitor, and then the next side of the monitor is where I am seeing the output of the result I'm working on. So it was so unique for me. And then the second part of it again was when I was putting my properties, and while I was putting my properties, I was able to put in typography. I remembered when I just recalled when, as a graphic designer, I was able to play around with typography, and I was able to play around with fonts. Like in Photoshop, you could be able to choose your type of fonts that you want to apply for your work. Like, I recall all those moments. It was so unique and it was so dear to me. And the other part of it was when I was able to play around with colors. But the unique thing that stands out for me in this whole experience was when I would have to go on YouTube to watch some videos where I lack knowledge on something, especially the part where I wanted to put a button for what I was designing on. I didn't have an experience on that. I had to go on Google to search how to get a class button. I was thinking you just have to put a button there to go on the CSS file and then write button there. But I discovered that I have to add a class to the button. I have to add a syntax to the button in the HTML file and then get it to work for me. So one unique thing that also stood out for me was that I was going from ChatGPT to Google to YouTube. In the case of my graphic design work, you rarely go, because everything, maybe as I keep growing as a graphic designer, I was not always going to Google or YouTube to watch some videos, but at some point I was going. But this time around, I was frequently going to YouTube to watch videos on how to do this and videos on how to do this. And then while I keep practicing, it stood for me. It got into my head like next time I want to create a button, I know what to do. I know where to place this stuff, and I know what to write here. So this to me gave me an experience that I really want to sit down and work on this website more and more and enjoy the flow while I write basic basic codes for myself. In the coming days, I'll be dropping link of my GitHub channel to the website I have started working on, and let's see how it goes. Welcome to day 2 of me working on something for the future. Thank you.